tense is the bargain.
He is one of the guys that I elected to speak at my funeral. Now don't screw it up because this is an audition.
I'll have to get rid of some of this material I was going to read. You know, I think most of you are aware of the beer commercial that portrays the actor as being the most interesting man in the world. Bill Fleming is maybe the most misunderstood man in the world. Believe it or not, I can say this about myself, and maybe if you were honest with yourselves, you would say the same, that some people like you, some people don't. Coachers, detractors remember his rants, and his raves, and the technicals, and grabbing your kid by the shirt and kicking him in the pants. But those who respect Coach Fleming remember the teaching, the coaching, the caring, and the winning. He is passionate, he is a winner, he doesn't like to lose, and that's why we know he will fight this terrible disease until the bitter end.
You don't like to fight.
I've known this man for 43 years. You're going to have a chance to tell stories. Some of you have known him longer. I don't have any stories about him. Just as the only thing I know for sure, we're going to move you up to the top row. He's about as predictable as I knew this would happen. We'll probably be running Memphis for an inbounds play. Hey, it is great to see all the players and coaches here. I know it's like a reunion for coaching out, what this is all about. The organizers did tell me to keep this short. I know there are many of you who want to come to the podium and speak, and you'll be given that chance. Also, at the table at the sign-in, they have a neat little favorite memory. If you feel more comfortable in writing something down, you can do that and leave it for Coach to read on his return trip to Urbandale. Now, I know that many of you are here to speak because some of you have been promised the best pair of sweat socks basketball ever made. They're just $10. If you get that to me, I'll make sure it gets to the right place. I don't know if this is legal or not. My son Adam, I have two sons. I refer to one as a doctor and one as a basketball coach. The basketball coach was in town this week. He finally was able to find out that they do book flights from Phoenix to Iowa instead of me going there. But anyhow, he was here and he missed this event by a day. They went back yesterday. But he had a chance to drive out to Urbandale on Thursday and to spend some time with Coach and Kathy and Dan. But he did leave with me a short couple of paragraphs to read, so I can. These are the words of Adam. He says, I feel terrible. I can't be there today to celebrate and honor Coach Fleming and see and listen to many of the people that he has impacted in his life. I'm grateful for the time we spent together Thursday at his house with Kathy Dan, telling stories, laughing, and crying. As I write this on the plane trip home, my eyes are watering once again. Coach Fleming has brought me to tears, which is appropriate because of all the times his ass chewings made me cry growing up. This was the part I told you earlier. Make sure Coach just sits there and allows everyone else the opportunity to tell stories, even if they're only half true. Also, if you're sitting around telling stories and not doing it with rock-hard chocolate chip cookies and milk with ice cubes, you're doing it wrong. When you leave today, Coach will probably try to entice you into buying a goal center basketball hoop or some sport court for your driveway. Few people in my life have had a greater impact on my success as a player, coach, husband, and father than Coach. Coach Fleming taught basketball, no doubt, and I've yet to meet a greater basketball mind than his. That being said, the way he developed young adults into men using basketball as a platform is what made him great and what separates him from most coaches today. He asked me to be a manager for him beginning in the 3rd grade. My dad loved the idea. My mom hated it. Apparently Mom owed Dad a favor because she let me do it. I was a manager through 8th grade. Without getting into much detail, some of my memories Patrick Bentrott picking me up at 6 o'clock in the morning for practice, mopping the floor, hopping onto the practice floor when Coach wanted one of the guys to get in a stance and guard someone at my height. The long film sessions, playing in Clark College High School Fall League as a middle schooler, and driving his Cadillac from the back of the school to the front after games when I could barely see over the steering wheel. And of course, the postseason meetings on the stage. Coach was grooming me to become his next great all-state point guard, and most of the time I was a willing listener. Then he moved to Des Moines before my freshman year, and after a couple of weeks of pouting and being furious at him, we had a heart-to-heart in the back porch of my home, and I finally went next play in Coach's terms. He'd bring me to Des Moines for a week each summer for 3 days, play kids who were bigger, faster, and stronger than me. He drove me to Kansas City for Coach Lamar's camps for a couple of weeks. As Coach drove, he did so while reading his list of 150 ways Hefker can get better. This was from his notebook. You'd think texting and driving was bad. While he was not my coach, he was heavily invested. He came to many of my high school games and always had a list of ways I could improve afterwards. He eventually joined Coach Rocky Lamar's staff at Mid-America, and we got to win a national title together in 2007. I owe Coach Fleming so much for where I am today and firmly believe I am coaching now because of him. If you came to one of our college practices or a camp that I run today, it would sound a lot like a Maquoketa practice, with way less cursing, of course. In my debt to him, my goal each day is to teach the great game of basketball with the passion he did, while most importantly transforming young adults into men who will one day become impactful in their homes, workplaces, and communities. Signed, Adam. Before I leave the podium and give other people an opportunity, on behalf of the Maquoketa Community High School Hall of Fame Committee, the committee met earlier this week to select the Hall of Fame inductees for the 2018 class. It'll be just the third class of Hall of Famers. Official announcement will come on Monday, and then the entire class will be introduced at that time. But I can tell you on this Saturday afternoon that Coach Bill Fleming is a Hall of Famer again. Mark on your calendar. Well, you can invite him. Mark on your calendars the weekend of September 14th. It'll be a big introduction night at the football game, and the induction banquet will be held on Saturday night here in Maquoketa. Bill, you promised to be there? Yes, he will. Let me bring to the podium, representing the Maquoketa Community High School Alumni Association, Doug Nickram.
Good afternoon. I can tell you a bunch of stories about Coach Fleming. Real quickly, I'll tell one.
Tell them about a software.
We're going to do that. Coach Fleming, we had a preseason meeting, and we were not the most gifted athletes in the world. To say the least, we were not. And we had a preseason meeting in Coach Streets' office, and Coach Fleming proceeded to tell us how bad we were. He said, you guys are a bunch of losers. You will never win at anything. He said, Nickram, if you don't change what you're doing, I'm going to tell your parents. Honest to God, fear God. A lot of truth in those stories, though. But Marty, Kenny, Keith, myself, and all our other teammates will attest to you that that was motivation for us. And history will tell you that we were Marty and Kenny and Keith Kyle right there are 1978 graduates. Stand up.
Stand up. They went to 3 straight state tournaments.
I can tell you. As sophomores, we went 16-2. 2, he is our point guard, and that's a miracle in itself. And we went to 3 state championships. Marty and Kenny played on 3, Keith and I on 2. So I guess we weren't a bunch of losers. And enough of that. I just want to let you know that we're pleased to announce the establishment of the Bill Fleming and Dennis Streets Alumni Scholarship, annual scholarship. This scholarship will be given to a Maquoketa High School graduating boys basketball player who exemplifies character, determination, teamwork, and selflessness. Graciously, we have a former player and a friend of Coach Fleming and Coach Streets that has committed a significant amount of money to start this scholarship initially. In addition, we've had several players inform me and friends that we'd like to contribute to that fund. Our goal is to seek additional funding from former coaches, players, alumni, and friends to have this scholarship go on as long as we can. At the present time, there's a selection committee that will be formed that will include former players, friends, the current Maquoketa basketball coach, and each year we'll select that recipient. So a lot of the details are sketchy a little bit, but there is a significant amount of money that will begin next year. So if anybody would like to come up and share some comments, Cindy?
Before Cindy gets up there, she was in my first math class with Rocky Lamar. I saw VR today. I wish your mom was here too. Where's Bruce at?
Yep. He's out of town.
Okay. What is she, 94 now? Okay, 90 don't kill us. Vivian River was the president of the school board for 5, 10, or 12 years. Vivian River was a president of the school board for 10 or 12 years. Cindy Fair was the school board president for 10 or 12 years. 16. I was in danger of getting fired every damn week I was here for 33 years. But with those 2 women, it would have happened over their dead body. They called me late at night. What the hell did you say to this one? I tell them. So that's kind of what I figured. He's still here now. Cindy's a nurse.
Many of the people talking today will be talking about basketball memories. I didn't quite make the team because I was too short. However, at that time, Rocky Lamar wasn't much taller than I was, and he made the team. Go figure. I did make it into Bill's first math class in Maquoketa. Bill came from DeWitt, hoping to leave a nickname he was given behind in DeWitt. Well, that nickname carried to Maquoketa. My brother-in-law happened to graduate from DeWitt, and down there they called him Flash, because he wouldn't stay sitting on the bench. He was up and down faster than the basketball made it down the court. A number of times getting warnings and technicals, or maybe the technicals were from his salary. Who knows? Getting back to math class. That first day, I wrote Flash on all the blackboards before he came in. It took him a few months to find out who did it and how I found out. As a coach, Bill showed compassion and direction to every player. During my high school years, we had a couple of players that people didn't think would ever make or be part of our basketball team. And it turned out that they did and were some of the best players. He stayed on top of his players and their grades, making sure they were eligible to play. There was a time during his career that caused the Board of Education a few headaches. We held our breath. A few things had to change, but the program he built continued. And I think the players at that time learned about composure. They stepped back and took a deep breath and went forward. I am glad he was a part of our district. He cares about Maquoketa, his students and players. He retired from Maquoketa, but has never really left. It's been a pleasure knowing Coach Fleming.
I don't have to get up every time. If you feel comfortable, just please come forward. I think we're ready to follow her. We'll just keep this going. Bill, back up about 10 minutes.
Officer friendly.
Well, before I was a friendly, I was a janitor here. And in the late 70s, Skippy Lancaster and I were the painters. We had 3 basic colors of paint from Snow White Pharmacy, the paint store: tan, white, and an ugly lime green. Skippy and I were out here painting. Bill came in and said, "Can you guys add anything color to this?" So Skip and I went down and got this red paint, which is still here. We almost got our asses fired because we painted that other color. Yeah, Gordon didn't like that. But we painted it red anyway, and it's still here.
One time I was driving a lady home from where she lived across Summit Street. It was really snowy. You couldn't tell where the middle line was. And I must have gotten over. Suddenly I see cops splashing behind me. I get picked up and the guy says, "When did you have a last drink?" And most of you know where I stand on that. I said, "I think it was about 12 years ago." He didn't like my attitude, so he calls the cop station to send up a kit. And he called Groover, who I think was an assistant chief of police then, and Groover said, "Well, who is he?" And he told me who, and Groover just started laughing. So they give me this kit. I said, "What do I do? Do I key in this or blow it?" This is Sue McAfee. I walked in the door and started walking inside. Sue's son spent his senior year in prison. He was a great, great player. Essential all-state point guard. Probably would have gotten us to the state tournament. In 1985, we had a terrific team. We got beat by 1 or 2 at what the heck's the place called in Dubuque? The hockey rink. We were freezing. We get beat by 2, and the next week there's a bunch of people that are trying to get me fired. That's not big news. And I had signed, my son Jimmy was graduating. I thought that'd be a good time to leave. I'd had the contract signed with Edward D. Jones. Sue comes over to my house and said, "Coach Bill, you can't believe it. The leader of this group came to my house with this petition, and he wanted me to sign it." I told him, "Oh no, I'm not going to do it." She brings it over. pissed off because I was going to retire. Went in and got my Edward T. Jones contract, tore it in half, and said, give this guy half of it. And I stayed 15 more years.
We do have a history together. I came to work at high school, and all you guys are young kids then. And I learned how to control a study hall. I was scared to death. He was there when I got my first job at high school. Bill Hardison, to the study hall. Go to middle school. I was scared to death. I would go back up to him. Let me show you McAfee how. And he did. Cordell was the kid we practiced on. There you are, Gail. God love him. I want to talk about, we took tickets right here. You guys got played against Manchester that night and they whipped the hell out of you. You came home with your tail dragging behind you. He was madder than you can believe, okay? But you got ready. You practiced and you got ready. You were really ready. They came to visit us. This June, we started selling tickets. He didn't go till I did at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the hallway out there. They were in the hall, down the hall, outside, waiting to come in for the afternoon. But we were ready. Had a group called the Parkers Club. Some of you might remember them. They're grown men now. And we have chickens hanging everywhere, rubber chickens. And King rolled and said, anything you're going to do is to be inside this ring. Oh, he was really wound up for him. We got ready. But before you guys left that night up here in Manchester, they sang you a wonderful song. You remember what the song was, Coach? Got it. Okay, you guys got ready and they came. People came and we were still waiting at 8 o'clock down the sidewalk to get in here. There was nothing left to set, no place. Okay, we moved on. Game got a Gorn. He was really wound up. He couldn't sit on that seat at all. The rest were having their hands full with him. Time moved on, and some little lady stood up. She yelled, yeah, behind you. You look at somebody, sit down and shut up. He looked around and got real quiet here and looked around and he said, ah, and he laughed at her. After the game, he said, do you hear what that little grandma said to me? I said, yeah, sit down and shut up. But she added a few words to it. But the point of the story was, you guys won that night. At the end of it, they played, We Are the Champions. And everybody here that night sang that song. But they worked really, really hard. But that wasn't the end of the story. Some of the older classmen met the Manchester school bus up at Canton that night with a real nice reception. Piece of eggs. They ate that school bus like you wouldn't believe. And he thought it was funny. School board did it. But we got through that night and many other nights afterwards. Yes, he was always there. He was a part of my home a lot. Never passed up a chocolate chip cookie. He would go down the street and yell, cookies in a cookie jar, over he come. And whatever his story was, I used to tell him, you know, oh, yes. We had, and I went away and came back and opened the restaurant briefly, and about 9-10 years, he walked in and make his own malt, make his own Pepsi. After all, people said, does he own this? I said, no, he's just a cook. And he would get his own food and help himself. But he was a part of my life. I got jobs because he backed me up, and I learned a lot from him. But he either loved him or he hated him. I used to say, Mr. Personality, you're not. Yeah, he did a lot for young people, even with the food thing that they had to eat. You know. And I'd say to him, many times he'd say to me, we did in middle school, take a look at that kid. One was Gail up there. He said, what do you think? Well, they don't play like a girl. And they moved on, and those kids were really playing basketball, you know. But he always looking for the kid, you know, but he provided shoes, clothes, camp. Anytime he suggested this child needs something, he wanted help. A lot of camp, a lot of shoes in the little garage. What you had to do is wear the shoes, take them off, and send them in to get a new pair. Converse. Okay. But anyway, our ties were great. I still get to see him once in a while. We was in town. But the point of it was, a lot of people did not know the other side of the coast. You saw when he screamed and hollered and hear what he yelled at people. But when you see the other side of him, and I met his wife about 8 years ago, and I said to her, if you make it through basketball season, you're going to be okay. Today, she says, I made it. And he's going to make it too. Point of it, you know, I enjoyed our friendship. He's my son. And the one, he's not here, he's in Arizona. He's fine. He moved on. He's just got a great life.
I see so many dear coaching friends of mine here. Either guys that played for me and turned into coaches or coaching friends. I think at one time I had 82 of my former players had become coaches. And then I had the ones that Rocky had. I just want some of you guys to stand up. Don Line, just stand up. Stand. Oh, yours. Stand up. Garrett, stand up. Stand up, Dennis. Dennis Garrett. George, stand up. George Spick. What am I missing? Jerry Pettigrew. Todd. Curtis Clark back there. Al Marshall, Dan Beck from Preston, John Davis, University of Dubuque, and my dearest friend on this earth, Dennis Streets. Dennis was my assistant all 33 years I was here. Who am I missing? Coach DeMar, Carl Small. Anybody else I missed? Okay, just hang in there. Lions, how many wins? 400, 500. Dennis, how many? 500. How many, Jerry? You know exactly to the number? 921. 921, buddy.
I have no idea.
You guys are still alive.
I don't know.
This is the two best cards you have at the same time. Both are all favorites. Both ended up playing.
Really?
And I went. Al Marshall, how many? 738. 650. 921. Streets. More than me, 5 something. Julie, how many? 5 something. So what we're talking about is about 4,000 freaking wins. I forgot one more. Coach Huckstead. Stand up. My good friend Jerry Pettigrew from Cuba City was fun.
I got to tell you a couple of stories.
My voice
Okay.
is bad.
First one, we never played a varsity game, but we played junior reserve games. So I came down here to Maquoketa to play a junior reserve game, and he had a couple of referees. We got holy bad. We took a pretty bad beating down here, to be honest with you. Bill was very happy and shook my hand afterward. Thanks for coming down. So the next year, I called him and I said, how about coming up to Cuba City to play? So he did, you know, and I had a couple of homers. But there was one play especially, right over there, kid Maquoketa kid, the ball was going out of bounds. And the kid was flying out of bounds, and he was still in bounds, but his body took him out of bounds, but he threw the ball back in bounds to the Maquoketa kid. But my homer referee said, you can't go out of bounds and come back in. So we got the ball. Bill got up and he said to the referee, what do you mean he can't, he was in bounds. His body took him out. He said, no, you can't fall out of bounds and come back into the game. Bill said, well, what's he got to do? Does he have to pay admission to get back into the game? That was one thing. Second thing, he mentioned it, 1985, 5 Flags, Dubuque, Iowa. My God, maybe the worst basketball facility I've ever seen in my life. Locker rooms were terrible. You had a really good team. You played Dubuque. Waller, best team money could buy. But anyway, best team money could buy. I mean, they had a good team. There's no doubt about that. They had, you got hosed that night bad. You got...
But our best defensive player was in France.
Anyway, I first met Bill at John Davidson's basketball camp at the University of Dubuque. And with Bill, as a coach, you study other coaches. Maquoketa was successful because Bill Fleming had a process. And if you were willing to do that process, you were going to win. Okay? It's interesting. I've been fortunate. I've stayed in a small town for 47 years, and yes, I'm still coaching. It's my hobby. The 3 best coaches are here today. Al Marshall, John Davidson, and the best high school basketball coach I've ever seen. Bill Fleming. I love him.
This guy I brought up as a freshman, Don Lyons. He was the best athlete in the league for 4 years.
Coach, I'm talking about.
At that time, returning college guys would come in and practice and play with us. Rocky was in town, so he'd come up and he'd play. And Donnie was our stopper. Nobody wanted to guard Rocky. He'd been an All-American. He was a great player. Donnie says, I'll take it. You know where this is headed. They collided heads. And Lyons said, that son of a bitch got my teeth out. And he has 2 teeth in his hands. And he goes running off the court at those streets. Go find out what's wrong with Lyons. Danny comes back in and he says, he's in a parking lot. He went home. Lynn Hughes came up to me, Lynn's here. Says, Coach, don't believe that BS. Lyons has a couple fake teeth that when they come out, they just loosen them. So I do the coaches show later that day, and Leighton asked me, how's the team? I said, we had a horrible injury this afternoon. I don't know if our point guard will play ever again. I said, Lyons suffered a horrible jaw injury. Unbeknownst to me, that show was being shown or heard live, and Bob Lyons and his older brother Donnie or Danny were listening to it, and they're sitting around the table. They hear this, and they just start laughing their ass off. And Danny, your dad told me later, Donnie just got up and ran away from the table. You guys think that's so damn funny? Bob called me later that night. He says, Bill, don't worry, my kid's playing. He walks into her. She was only next morning. You got kids here, cover your ears. Lyons walks in, he says, real coach.
I don't remember that story that well. But you got to believe Coach, okay? First of all, it felt good to sit on the stage and come off the stage, because that's where all of the Maquoketa basketball players learn the game of basketball and the game of life after games sitting on the stage. So it felt really good to sit on that stage and come back and honor Coach. So again, good afternoon. My name is Don Lyons, and I am a 75 graduate of Maquoketa High School who was fortunate enough to play point guard for Coach Fleming from 1973 until 1975. It was an honor to play for Coach, and I found him to be one of the hardest working, most goal-oriented, and toughest persons I've ever known. As you all know, to play for Coach Fleming, you had to play defense, rebound, and take care of the basketball. As the point guard, I remember what Coach told me. Shooting is not an equal opportunity thing. Your job is to get the ball to people who can score. And remember, don't shoot unless you have a layup. I grew and learned a lot under Coach during those years. And the culmination of that education came in the form of a conference championship in my senior year. Following my graduation from Upper Iowa, I returned to Maquoketa to work again for Coach as his 7th grade basketball coach. I also assumed the role of his varsity volunteer assistant. Coach promised me $50 and a pair of shoes. Thanks for the shoes, Coach, but I'm still waiting for the $50. My first job as head coach at Lytton, I wanted to be a combination of Coach Streets and Coach Fleming. To be Coach Streets, I bought a pair of cowboy boots. To be Coach Fleming, I bought a suit coat, so I always had something to throw. However, I quickly learned that I could not use the same style that Coach Fleming had used to gain fame. My first game as head coach, I received 2 technicals. I remember what Coach had taught me. After you get that first technical, you tell the official, that's the best call you've made all night. You're guaranteed another technical. Correct, Coach? Later that week, the superintendent paid me a visit and told me I had to change my style. I'm sure that never happened to you, Coach. A few years after that, Coach again helped me along my career path, this time assuming some teaching and coaching positions in Denison. At Denison, I started hosting basketball camps, so of course I hired Coach to come at them, to work for me. That's correct. You're correct, Coach. I remember how Coach used to pay us former players to work his basketball camps simply by buying us meals. Well, for Coach, I made sure he got paid because he wasn't going to come unless he got paid. But I also had to guarantee that he got a meal, just like he gave all of us coaches to work his camp for a meal. I mean, the Subway sandwich, Coach, I drove 4.5 hours one way, worked the camp 4.5 hours back. That Subway sandwich I enjoyed. Thank you so much. So now, Coach is now coming out to Denison to help me. And so the camp is over and it's 11 o'clock. And Coach had told, I wanted him to teach fundamentals, but all he did was tell the girls stories. Something that came back on me, but I appreciate that, Coach. But Kronk's Cafe had never sold a $40 20-ounce steak at 11 o'clock in the morning before. Coach liked to eat, especially when someone else was paying. But in all seriousness, Coach Fleming gave us all the greatest gift anyone could ever give another person. He believed in us all. We may not share a last name, but we are all family here today, the Maquoketa basketball family. I am reminded that our life's journey is about the people that impacted us. Coach Fleming played a pivotal role in making us the people that we are today and shaping the course of our lives. He is truly a great coach who impacted generation after generation of athletes both on and off the court. Coach, it is an honor to have played for you, coached with you, and gotten to know you as a friend and colleague. Thank you for the memories and all you've done for me and everyone who is here today to honor you. God bless and love you, Coach.
plan on doing this. I'm Ruth Jost, and I have 3 kids that graduated from Maquoketa. Bobby in '99, Courtney in 2002, and Topher in 2007. And when we came to register Bobby for high school here, we did not know about Coach Fleming and this great basketball program. But Bobby loved the game of basketball. And when we registered him, the counselor said, well, do you play any sports? You're kind of a big guy. He said, well, I kind of like basketball. And the counselor laughed. He said, you'll play basketball in Maquoketa if Bill Fleming says you'll play basketball in Maquoketa. And we didn't know what that meant. I honestly thought it was kind of rude, but I didn't know. And pretty soon, very soon, before we moved here, I think, Bobby had found First Ward Park in the basketball court. And then he found, or Bill Fleming found him down there and talked to him. And Bobby got to play basketball with Bill Fleming. I do remember that next summer coming home from work, and there would be messages on our answering machine from early in the morning. Bobby, get your ass out of bed and get down here. I didn't know all this work that you were required to be at open gyms. We quickly found that out. Courtney had Mr. Fleming for a math teacher, and I said, well, what do you remember? And she said, well, I was an average student. He didn't love me, he didn't hate me. She said, but I always hoped that Bobby did well, because if Bobby did well, I got treated well in class. And when he screwed up, it was bad news for me. So I guess she kind of encouraged him to do better on the basketball court. And then we had our Topher, who was not extremely athletic, but he worshiped the ground that his big brother walked on. And he spent a lot of time watching the basketball team. And Topher had this terrible habit in grade school of licking his lips, to where every fall he had a huge red circle around him, and the basketball team affectionately came to call him Captain Kool-Aid. And we went through this for a couple of years, and no matter what we tried, we could not get him to stop. And Coach Fleming would give him a hard time, and finally he sat down with him. He said, what can I do? What can I do or give you to get you to stop that habit? You look ridiculous. And Topher said, I want one of those sweatshirts that all the basketball players get. And my gosh, if that kid did not stop after years of his parents trying to stop him, and he was presented with that basketball sweatshirt that still sits in our house waiting for the next generation to wear it. I do remember one time when Bobby was ready to quit basketball. And he hadn't told us, but he had gone ahead and told the coach that he was not going to play anymore. I think it was between junior and senior year. And Coach called us. He said, what is this about? Sophomore and junior year. And Coach said, what is this about? And I knew what it was about, because he had been embarrassed by the coach when he was getting his butt chewed. And I sat down with the coach and said, I know what it's about. You really embarrassed him. I said he needed to be disciplined, but he didn't need to be embarrassed like that. I never had another problem with the coach. Somehow we got Bobby to keep playing basketball. And when he was thinking about quitting, I told him, you are not going to let one man take away the love of this game that you have loved since you were an infant throwing a basketball. I said, in life you are going to work with and for people that aren't always going to do things the way you want to do it, or say things the way that you would say it, but you have to get over that. You are going to work for it. And I also said, if you ever look for employment anywhere near Jackson County and they find out you played basketball for Bill Fleming and stuck it out, that's going to say something about your life. I'm so glad that he stuck it out. We have so many memories of the players and sitting on the benches with the parents, and I think your program made him a stronger man, a stronger parent, a stronger employee, and I really appreciate that.
We've been talking about you, Bobby. Now stand up. That's Bobby Joe. He's going up to is really good because Coach Marshall is here. Okay, Al Marshall had come here and beat us the first time that year. And not many people get to walk in here and win. Not when there's a conference title on line. Because our saying was, we're going to be at the top, or whoever gets there is going to have to go through us. And Al had beaten us here. I remember before we went up there, I think I said something like, we may not substitute for this game, but I guarantee you, we're going to put the 5 meanest, toughest SOBs I could possibly find on the floor. The gym was filled before the sophomore game. And I remember you. Who was their big guy? Callahan. You just went at him. Bobby's got godly long arms. And Al, I hate to do this to you, but late in the game, Al loves the 2-3 zone. And we were running stuff to delay. I think it was called Arizona. We were running stuff that we got back cuts off of the block. We got layups. Curtis played right, the Bettendorf coach. And late in the game, I remember Curtis made a baseline cut, gets the ball, he's this far away, goes up, fakes the shot, turns and throws it out. We run some more clock. And not very many times people would get Al out of 2 threes, but he was one of the great coaches we ever faced. Bobby remembers that night. Curtis, who else? Tad. Wiederholt. And who was the other guy? Golden. Golden?
Oh, yeah.
This is Curtis Clark. Curtis Clark, when he was a freshman, remember I told you, people wanted to be fired every week. Your mom? Okay. His mom was going to go to the school board because she didn't understand that I could make a freshman practice with the freshman team, then the sophomore team, and then the varsity team on the same day. I don't know what you're doing, Curtis. You're never going to play this game. Get out of college. Never going to make any money coaching it. First year he coached at Bettendorf. They went 24-1. Got beat for the state title by my good friend Steve Brookman. Curtis Clark.
Appropriate for me to come up after talking about Bobby Jost. Bobby and I graduated together, and I find it interesting that you go through all this. I had no idea Bobby was even, this is the first time I ever heard about him thinking about quitting. And I obviously would not have been in favor of that. I think Bobby will tell you I was one of the guys that always told him I thought he was better than what he himself thought he was. Bobby was a very good basketball player. And I never knew that about my mom either. There's probably a reason behind that, because I was not alone. But anyway, yeah, I think there's probably a lot of stories similar to that. But I think it's important to thank all of you for coming too. And I know that I don't need to thank you, but this is what makes an event like this so special. Is I know there's a lot of people that travel out of state, changing their plans, but we're able to come. I think it's also important to know, I think we all know that you played for coach, especially now that winning and losing was never the importance of why we're here today. However, all those wins, I think it does reflect on the winners that Coach built. Because if you were able to go through the program, and it was tough and it was hard, but you will, all of us in here that played for him are winners in life. But I think it's also, I'm a basketball coach. I was almost a math teacher as well. And so I do love stats and numbers, but I had Jack Marlowe, of course, help me with this. 15 years from now, Coach will be 33 years removed, and that's how long he coached here. And if this program goes undefeated for the next 15 years, they will still have more losses than what Coach did. And I think that puts things in perspective, I would say. As a coach, I tell my players all the time not to listen to the noise outside the locker room. And I think those of you that played sports understand and know that, because nobody knows the family better than we do. We all know there's plenty of noise outside this big locker room today about Coach, but nobody knows Coach better than we do. And there's a reason why we are his biggest supporters. I have just a couple of quick memories that will hopefully trigger some of the former players to come up and speak tonight too. But some of my good memories, just real quick, were donuts after games with their opponents. I still don't know how you did that, because I've used some of the things that he did when he was a coach, but I don't know, I'm just too competitive. I don't really want to see the coaches or the players after the game. Saying thank you to the officials every time you got the ball given to you. The gold ball, what a reward that was, to bring it out in front of the great fans of Maquoketa basketball. Senior night, we all got to have that opportunity to come up and speak in front of the community. And I thought it was also important for the community to see another side of Coach. Old ball, now that I'm a coach, I hate that game. But I understand it and I know it, and we played it as good as anybody in the state. The stage that was already mentioned, I think the other thing about the stage is that last game when it was all over with, I still remember as a freshman, you know, and the coach is tough, and I'm sitting here 14 years old trying to figure all this out. Jerry Wydell, man, tears just flowed like crazy, man. All of a sudden here I am crying like a baby. I'm thinking, oh my God, these senior guys are going to look at me, but then I look around and everyone's crying. And as players, what that meant to us. A couple stories. Cascade was one story was already given. My junior year when we didn't sub, we played the entire game, no subbing. My sophomore year, I believe there's probably some of you that were in here, but it was an all-out league brawl. Players are, I think former players, I don't know what it was, but Cascade student section came charging after us. I was a sophomore and I saw people throwing haymakers, coach grabbing people, and you want to talk about chaos. You get in the locker room, players are quitting, coaches throwing guys up against lockers, and I'm thinking, holy moly, what did I sign up for here? I don't know what just happened. A couple of stories about Coach Streets, the Dean, Vulcan grip. I think everybody probably had that at one point in time or another. Yabbit. It took me maybe a year when I would say that. He looked at me and said, what kind of rabbit is that? I think several times I just kind of walked away, I don't know. And then a year later it kind of dawned on me that a yabbit was just kind of like he didn't really want to hear an excuse. He just wanted me to listen. Coach Streets, as we all know, is kind of a translator from what Coach was saying or yelling. And after you got done with that, the coach, what I really think he was trying to tell you is that you can play better basketball. And of course, with a grin. Probably one of my favorite stories with Coach Streets, I think it was my senior year, but I know it was Dyersville, I think. And tagged Chris, a teammate of mine, and down here and this hoop, threw and got an elbow right before it, just split me open. And we had the game. I think the game was in hand. We were going to win, and I was worried about not being able to play anymore. And so Coach Streets took me into the equipment room over there to go get examined by the professionals, which was him. And he looked at it a little bit. He grabbed a piece of gauze, slapped it on my head like this, wrapped tape around my head like that, and said, "You're good." A couple of stories about my sister in a roundabout way. Coach always thought my sister had 8 to 10 birthdays because I was, I think I can admit at this age of my life that I've tried to take a break every once in a while from him. And but I thought I did a much better job than that. I thought I moved it to grandpa's birthday, mom's birthday, my cousin's birthday, but apparently I used my sister too many times. And I also used her for the morning part to where I had a babysitter, and I did have to do that. Of course, Coach would find another way about that. He said, I'll babysit her. And I was thinking, how am I going to explain to my mom and dad that Coach Fleming is going to watch my sister? I don't think this is going to go over. But he found a way, and what he did is she had an open account at TNT Ice Cream if she would come to the park. And one story was, I remember coming into town on a Friday, Sunday night, and she told Dad to stop. My sister was 10 years younger than I was, so she was probably around 7 years old. And told us to stop. We needed ice cream, and it was on her. She had a tab on Coach Fleming. Coach Fleming would also, I used to work for Maquoketa Construction in the summers and doing a lot of roofing. And the guys that were on the roof with me, and Scotty Streets being one of them, him and I were tall. He was tall boy 1, I was tall boy 2, and they said every construction needs a tall boy to hold things, and so that was kind of our role. But the other roofers on the roof always used to joke with me that, oh, here comes the silver fox, he's coming. And I'd jump over top the other side of the roof because he was looking for me. And he went as far as having a conversation with me saying, you know, all you're going to be, Clark, is an all-state roofer. You're never going to be an all-state basketball player. And this went on for years to the point where he actually made me a shirt, an all-state roofing shirt, I believe it was, or maybe Mike Wayne did. I don't know who made it for me. But Linda Hughes, you were on that shirt, and I had a couple others. I thought, damn, this is the hell of a basketball player. I don't think Coach knows what he's talking about. Danny, after you graduated, went down to Kansas City, of course, played with Coach Lamar, and several occasions, as you know, he's probably crazy, to lack of another word, but would go down after practices and games and watch Danny play, and he'd text me or call me, or he didn't have text in there, he must have called, and said, hey, I'm going to get back in town around 2 or 3. I'm going to be sleeping up here behind the stage. Just come up, kick me, and wake me up once you get here in the morning. And you just talk about the passion and admiration that you have for a guy that puts everybody in front of his own self at times of waking Coach up behind the curtain. I still have my first coaching job was here at Maquoketa as 7th grade basketball coach. Coach wrote me a letter. I remember getting it in the mail, congratulating me. I got one when I was the head coach at Andrew. I never actually coached a game there. I was only the head coach there for about a month. And then the same with Bettendorf. And I kind of feel like I'm more than fortunate and not necessarily deserving, but I was lucky enough to get into the profession, and Coach was around and actually lived in the Quad Cities where I coached for a while. So it was nice to always have that connection with him. We've stayed in touch since I graduated here. And like I said, I don't know why I deserve that honor, but I sure do cherish all those times that I had that chance to send him game film and he'd break it down, and we'd talk many hours about the game of basketball. Last story, probably my favorite. I remember I just finished my first year of high school, so I was a freshman. And the story about him is true, where I was waking up in the morning, practicing the varsity. After school, I'd either go to Delmar for freshman practice, and then I'd come back for sophomore practice. And there were times I practiced 4 times in a day. And I do recall my mom not being real happy with me because my grades weren't overly well. And I think I'm guessing I'll have to ask her if that's where it all stemmed from. But I remember in the summer, coming home from the park, he gave me a ride, of course, in his Cadillac, and he mentioned to me, you know, what do you think about, I think I'm going to make you a captain this year. And of course, I don't have a lot of time to think, but I had all these things going in my head, and it's still in my memory today that this guy's out of his mind. And I don't even think I'm good enough to even play on the team. And this guy's going to throw me into the wolves as a captain over top of these juniors and seniors. And of course, no one was at that age going to tell Coach Fleming no, so I said, absolutely, that would be a heck of an honor to be a captain for this team. And I don't know if I ever talked to those senior guys, but I know I wanted to, that this was not my idea. I don't want to be a captain, but I couldn't tell Coach no. I do know without Coach Fleming that I would not be in the profession that I am. And I don't know what I would be doing, but I know 100% without his knowledge of the game that was passed on to me, his passion for the game, I know for a fact I would not be coaching. And There are some days I may hate you for that. It is the gift that keeps on giving, and I'll be forever thankful of that. And I know I'll never hold a candle or coach as long as he did, but we do run the play Memphis, and Coach Mack at North Scott, who also ran Memphis in high school, still doesn't know how to defend it either, so it's still working.
Most of you know the University of Iowa's basketball team. It would be a year ago, I had 3 of their starters that I worked a lot with. A guy named Peter Jock, been at my point guard camp when he was in 5th grade. His older brother Dow. I would have dearly loved to have gotten here and had you people think, what in the world is some sick doing here? Or Quinn Moore. I worked with Nicholas Bear, who was a number 8 player. And then I worked with the last of the brothers, Bohannon. For those of you that know what Bohannon did this year, he had tied Chris Street's record, and he went to the line and missed the free throw that would have given him the record. The kid's name is Jason Bohannon, and Jordan, and the older brother is Jason, and then the in-between one, the one that went to Air Force, I worked at my camp, and he and Jordan had come up with a scheme. And I see something new every day in basketball that just makes me think, this is an amazing game to sport, to coach, and to play. And last night, my Warriors won, and I love that dearly. I'm sorry, but they play the game the way people are supposed to play. They pass the ball, they're unselfish, they truly care about each other. How many of you know what team in the NBA makes more passes a game? Golden State, over 300 passes. What team sets more screens? Golden State. And I've never seen anybody like Curry. He takes crazy shots. But you can tell how much his teammates absolutely love the guy. My oldest son went to a Golden State game, and my grandson's name's Matt. He said, Grandpa, Curry made 3 straight threes, and I had to put my hands over the ears because that arena got so loud I couldn't hear. Matt, I want you to stand up. Stand up. Turn around. Matt is one of my all-time favorite fans. He's Dan and Carla Beck's son. And Matt's been a manager of your team for 35 years. We're playing at the University of Preston, and the place is absolutely packed. And Matt and I have always gotten along ever since I first met him when he was 3 or 4. Matt comes running out in front of the scoring table, and he has a Preston t-shirt on. And he does like this, and he turns around. And the Preston fans just go nuts. Then he proceeds to tear that Preston t-shirt off, and he has a Maquoketa basketball. That's one of my all-time favorite memories. Both sides of the place just went nuts. Thank you, Matt. Thank you. Okay, who's next to this cavalcade? Oh, you two. Principal schools at
Central to win.
You know what? Senator Crosby.
I want to be real quick because one thing for sure I'd like to mention is basketball was better for me than I was for basketball. You know what I'm saying? There's a lot of all-staters, a lot of real big studs here. What Coach Fleming did for us, all people that dressed 15 kids were really part of it. I was fortunate to play a little bit my senior year and had a great year with Coach and his son, Jeff. But more importantly, probably than anything is, I did get to coach against Coach Fleming. I was hired to take longtime Neil Padgett's place, which was also a great friend of Coach's, passed away a few years back. And I got to coach in this gym. And Coach Marshall, we did beat him here. We did beat him here, and he beat us to win that year. But I think more importantly than what I'm saying is what he's done for me. My parents and Coach Fleming, probably the most influential people in my life. And I certainly would not be the person I am today without him. I was his neighbor, so I was at his house constantly from age 6 on probably. I don't have a lot of stories because some of them aren't probably appropriate, but I know we came up here with him when he was working. Jeff and I and Jim, and he'd make us run all the way back next to the car to Butternut Street. He wanted us in great shape. You remember that, Coach? We ran back and we were probably 8, 9 years old. But anyway, I just want to say one thing, and I've been texting you back and forth at times that I love you. You said that to us every time before we stepped on the court. And also, the handshakes that we had at the end of our season, and he held on and wouldn't let go. I did that very same thing for 20 years with my players. And when Curtis said that about all the kids crying, they were, but guess what you wanted to do the next day? You wanted to get your butt back in the gym. I would have gone and still would, Coach, go through a brick wall for you. And I wasn't the stud player, but what you did for me and where I got today, I love you.
The best wrestling coach in the history of the school. And wrestling coaches and basketball coaches aren't supposed to get along. We've been dear friends forever. We were co-7th or 8th grade football coaches for 25 years. Jeff Champion.
I may be the odd one in the group, but Bill's influence stretches across sports to athletics. And he's a little bit arrogant here. We first met and we didn't get along. In fact, I walked off of the field our first practice. Our parting words were not very kind, but the next day he came to my room and said, "You know, I really need to have you coaching with me in 8th grade football." And I think Bill was testing me at the time because I'm going to tell 3 quick stories and one I hope you'll really appreciate. So the first year as a coach at Maquoketa in 1970, we're doing 8th grade football, and he didn't tell me that he had to go every Friday night to scout. So my first week of practice, Bill leaves me there alone. He says, "Well, Tam, here, all you got to do is go on good now field. You can practice on that because some of you guys played on that turf. The ground was like asphalt." So I thought, well, there's a good opportunity for our kids. Well, I was standing out there to practice. The guy comes up to me and he says, "What in the hell are you doing on the field?" And I went, "Duh, we're having football practice." That was on a Friday, and Monday I got a note in my mailbox, "Come to see me immediately at school." It was the athletic director. I got written up after my first week in Maquoketa because of Bill. So then we went into track season. And there was no policy that you couldn't have a track practice on Wednesday night, church night. So we had some pretty good hurdlers, and Bill says, "Well, Jeff, why don't you just have a time trial? Take 5 kids down. Who's going to know?" We get down, we set up the hurdles, and I look out the corner of my eye, and here comes the athletic director in a dead run. And Mr. Disney doesn't run for anything, but he was running towards me. And he politely told me to get to his office the next morning, and I did. He says, "Stand here one more time. You're going to have 2 write-ups your first year of teaching and coaching in Maquoketa, and it's not going to go well for you the rest of the year." So I finally decided maybe I shouldn't listen to Coach Fleming as a mentor my first year. And I think he was testing me because right after that he says, "Tam, why don't you give up wrestling and start coaching with me?" And I told him, no, my chosen sport was wrestling because I can't coach anything that simple. You get 1 point for a free throw, 2 points for a 2-pointer, and you get 3 points. Well, in wrestling, you can score a lot more points than that. Here's the best story of Bill Fleming that I can tell you in our career for 48 years as being friends. We were track coaches together. We went to an Anamosa relays with 7th and 8th graders. And there was a mix-up in vans versus school buses, and the 9th graders were there, and we were supposed to take some of the freshmen home, and they wouldn't get on the bus. So I get up to go outside, and Bill just puts his hand on me and says, "Stand here, sit down. You're not going to get those 9 kids to ride the 7th and 8th grade bus." So we come back. Monday morning, I get a note saying, Bill Fleming and Jeff Tampier will report to the superintendent's office at 7:30 the next morning. And we know what it is. So we're driving, Bill picked me up at the junior high school. We go over there, and I said, "Bill, you don't say a word at this meeting." I said, "I've got 2 reprimands. Obviously, this is a place you're very familiar with the superintendent, but let me do the talking for a change." It went well. We got 2 official reprimands in our permanent teaching folders. So I go back to the middle school to teach the rest of the day. And the last block of the day I hear, and I turn and look at my door, it's the superintendent of the school standing there. And I'm going, oh. So I open up the door and I go outside, and I says, "Dr. Roberts, what can I do for you?" He says, "Tampier, I want to know one thing. How in the hell did you keep Fleming from opening up his big mouth at that meeting this morning?" So lately when we were trying to shut him up, I had to think. Bill's influence transcended to a lot of different folks, and I never played for Bill Fleming, but I'm probably in second command behind Denny Streets. I could stand to work with him as long, because I know he went through a lot of assistant coaches. But he taught me more about building teamwork, about team discipline, about having some character, and only accepting their very best. And in fact, I'm a fan of Maquoketa athletics, and I still am at 48 years. And my wife and I hardly ever miss an activity. And I learned so much from Bill Fleming, and that's the kind of example that I want to set for a wrestling team. And Bill and I had a great working relationship, basketball, wrestling. In fact, one of our goals one year is that I told our wrestling squad, "Guys, this year, you know what we're going to do every meet?" "What, Coach D? What, Coach D?" "We're scoring more damn points than the basketball team we did every year."
It is an honor, obviously. Carl Small, graduated in '91, started my career with Coach in 1984. My brother was part of the '83 team that got second in state, and Coach Fleming asked me to be his manager in 3rd grade as well. I think that must have been the first grade you could be a manager, but I always brag, I feel like I lasted longer with Coach than the majority of the people, including wives or whoever. But I really just wanted to summarize, being in this gym is super special, and looking at Coach Marshall, Coach Pettigrew, Coach Garrity, so many, Coach Davison, it brings back a lot of memories that none of which would not have happened if Coach Fleming wouldn't have asked me to be a manager. Some of the things I remember, there used to be a beautiful Iowa Big Bend standings that we were usually on top of every year. Before that, there was one over here with Coach Huckstadt and Coach Fleming. I believe we're in the WAMAC, and I remember climbing the ladder. That was one of the few kids that could get that high in this place, and changing the boards out. We used to have hand-cranked side gyms as managers, Corey Robinson, Keith Croach, Dick Speck, Rocky, Leedsy. Where's Mike Leeds? Talk about a Maquoketa basketball legend. My first years were spent with managers, and the organization, talking from a coaching perspective, how organized practices were, the points of emphasis, the sheets that were laid on the as the players know, detailed minute by minute with 5 different points of emphasis. From a coaching perspective, there is no better. I think Coach Pettigrew said it. As far as a high school coach, our gear in high school, that uniform, putting that baby on and taking the court was a feeling that only Maquoketa kids got to experience. So from a basketball perspective, I just am so blessed, along with all Cardinal former basketball players, and Georgia Robinson, who did the scorebook, saw her for many years. Her scorebook was impeccable. The stats were perfect. You know, I think when we had practice, the first 2 weeks, we went from 6 to 8 in the morning, and then we'd watch film from 3:30 to 5:30, and then we'd practice 5:30 to 7:30. So I think it was 6 hours for the first 2 weeks, as well as school. I was scared to death to drink or smoke. I mean, he kept so many kids off drugs. If you were messing, he would jump your ass so hard that you know, you hopefully wouldn't do that again. The one in the morning practices on New Year's Eve, I think it was Brian Hare who ran out and barfed all over. But that was a pretty good deterrent. Sorry, Brian, but you. But there's just so many great memories in this place. Obviously, Coach Fleming is a tremendous coach. As a coach, I've taken so many of those things. But more importantly, my day-to-day, it's funny, Coach Bickup and I will talk, Chris Oltmans and Todd Skripset, who are classmates of mine. When you get together with Maquoketans, you cannot not talk about him. And it's just, it can't happen. Eventually, Chris Oltmans and I used to just shake our heads and start laughing. We're talking about him again. Yeah, Chris Oltmans. I got that story. So, it's an honor to talk, and I love you, Coach.
Come on up here, John. Chris Oltmans, I saw that grin, I figured out, that's who that is. Stand up, Chris. And Todd. And for you parents, cover your kids' ears up here in a second. We were playing at what's that school? Cornell Shootout. We're playing Cedar Rapids Washington. And they have a guy named Russ somebody. Russ ended up playing Big Ten football in Iowa. And they're warming up down there, we're warming up here. Trust me, with Carl and Todd, we can play with anybody in the state, don't care where they're from. I look at Albans, you can just see steam. I said, what the hell? He said, that big guy, cover their ears up now. And Albans is just screaming at him. Coach, just let me at it. Late in the game, we're up 20. We're shooting a free throw. Our bench is over there. Albans is right here. Russ is across the lane from me. And Albans screams at me so that Russ hears it. Close them up again. We're in Cedar Rapids, Washington. True story? True story. Right. One of my dearest friends in coaching, John Davis, longtime University of Dubuque coach, later to Clark College head coach.
Bill and I have been friends for 50 years, so I've got enough stories to carry the rest of the afternoon. But I think the tribute is very clear when I see as many coaches that I had working at my basketball camp, and then all the players that Bill coached in attendance today. It's such an honor for me to be a small part of it. I think of our basketball camp, and that's how Bill and I first met back in 1968, before a lot of you were ever born. That was the first camp in Iowa. It was illegal prior to that, so Bill Byer and I kind of put things together with his help, and Neil Padgett and Jerry Pettigrew and Johnny Orr and a lot of other. Al Marshall, I looked out. You always have to worry about leaving somebody off the list. But basketball camp was not a camp for kids. It was a camp for coaches. And we had entertainment along with it. But at every break that we had at lunchtime, after when the kids were busy doing something else, the coaches were sitting at the table, kibitzing, Xing and O'ing, and we always had guests, Division I coaches, because back in those days, Division I couldn't have camps. So Lute Olson, Johnny Orr, I can go on and on. We had coaches from all the big time places came and spoke at the camp. Well, these guys would gather them together and would have a coaching clinic. And then after that was done, and Bill was there at the crack of dawn, he would bus the kids in different vehicles. Sometimes I'm not sure how legal it was, riding in a truck. But they were there, and then after we were done with camp, which was usually like 9 o'clock, they didn't go home. That's when they played. So it's, yeah, with the college kids too. But I have so many stories, and some of them are hilarious, but Bill taught the coaches as well. And my son, who happens to be 52 years old this week, was good friends with one of his sons, Jimmy. And he has told me for years and years, he said, Dad, you didn't run the best basketball camp, Coach Fleming did. So it doesn't get any better than that. And to see all of you here, I congratulate you to have that kind of respect for a guy like Bill. He's wonderful.
I've gone too long without saying anything here. So you gotta let the superintendent come first. I want to introduce the most important person in my life right now, and that's my wife, Kathy. Would you stand up? She's put up with so much crap. We've been together the last 10 years, and you guys know what it was like. She comes in to a ball game here, and the first person she meets is BR's mom, Vivian. And Vivian says to her, "Do you have any idea what you're getting into?" Come on, Huck. Sue? Okay, Sue. Sue Haas, one of my dear teaching buddies at middle school. I asked her one time, do you want to go to a Bulls game?
Yep. $400, but it's a playoff game, and let me tell you, we saw Pippen, we saw Jordan, we saw BJ, we saw Freebridge, Rodman, the whole gamut. That was one of the things to say. I never really did anything with basketball with Bill, but I was a teacher a few doors down. He was always very good to me. One time he took up a collection to help pay for all the birthday cards we sent around to everybody. Often he would bring sweatshirts back from the Final Four games. As a matter of fact, I still have a sweatshirt from Seattle. I think it's '89. So I had Final Four sweatshirts for years. But I have a teaching story, not a coaching story, a teaching story. I don't know if you remember this, Matt, Bill, but he was notorious for coming back from lunch late. And I came off the elevator or whatever, and walking by, and his kids are raising hell. So I thought, well, I'll stop in the room, because Bill's a good guy, and I knew he was doing basketball stuff and doing other stuff, and that's what delayed him. So I walk into the classroom, and here's this kid. I said, well, what's wrong? He said, well, I was doing cartwheels, and I hit myself. I said, whoa. Well, have a seat. Coach will be back pretty soon. Oh, Miss Haslam, can't sit. I said, is that bad? He said, yeah. I said, well, go to the bathroom, check it out, see what's going on. So he came back and he said, I'm bleeding. I said, well, go down and see Crowley. I don't want to see this. I knew Crowley would get him. Before the kid came back, Bill comes up for lunch. I said, so-and-so, I sent him to the nurse. Well, why? Bill says, oh, I'll take it. Later on, I see the kid in the hall. Discipline. I want to thank you, Bill, because you were always really good to me as a teaching partner. And I don't know much about basketball except to watch it, but I do know teaching and you taught me a few things. Thank you.
You guys know him as an ex-superintendent. Now he was just a child from Bennett. We played them here at a scrimmage at Christmas. And Huck and I became great friends. He got the job here as the girls' coach. And then he went away for a year or two, came back, and people didn't think he could coach. So I took him on, and he was my assistant for a year. People gained their senses. He became the girls' coach, and he was a great, great girls' coach. My daughter still considers him by far the best coach she ever had. This is Kim Huxton.
Yes, I will be quick as well, but feel compelled to say a few words about Coach Fleming. We have probably one of the most unique winding paths as we could. We came in as colleagues, and I'm not kidding you. When I would be out and about and people would say, well, where are you? I said, well, I'm the girls' coach in Maquoketa. Inevitably, the first question, how do you get along with Fleming? Always the first question. And I would always tell them, actually, remarkably well. I said, I've learned more about basketball, about attention to detail, about planning, about discipline from Coach Fleming than perhaps anyone else. And the other thing is my father was a coach. And he and Bill had similar characteristics in that they were sometimes colorful and vociferous and were not shy about sharing their views with the officials or anyone else for that matter. But so those two gentlemen played a huge role in my career. I do want to say I also eventually got to be his boss, if you can believe that. So I deserve a great deal of empathy for that. But we got along quite well. Here's a cute little story. We got telephones in the school. I mean, you know how technology's come so far now. Everybody's got them in their pocket. But it was a big deal when we got telephones in all our rooms. And as the principal, I could put 5 phones on my master phone on my desk. So I just happened to put Coach Fleming on mine. So anytime his phone was in operation, a red light on my phone would turn on. So one time I got, and then I'd get printouts, and I said, Bill, I said, I'm guessing, you know, on February 13th, you must have been given a test. Why the hell would you say that? I said, well, it looked like your phone was in operation for about 34 minutes out of a 42-minute period, so your students had to be taking a test. He goes, how did you know? I said, well, I said, just, it's amazing what we can track these days. But Bill is a legendary coach. He worked harder at this than anyone I ever knew. And what I will tell you is I took so much from what I learned about planning and being detail-minded and applied it in other kinds of work that I was able to do, including the principalship and later on as a superintendent. So Bill, I thank you for that influence, and I also was very blessed to get to coach his daughter. These guys are talking about sitting on the stage and having conversations. I'm not kidding you. We would be on a road trip to Vinton,
and we would have played our game, rode the bus all the way back here. We'd walk in to take our stuff to the locker room, and his damn team is still sitting on the edge of the stage having their late night conversation. So I could always say stuff like, "See, girls, you could be going through this." I said, "I'm not that bad." Okay, but no, thank you, Coach. Love you dearly.
Not many guys can say that there's principal and then later the superintendent also got to be your assistant. Anybody else that's just itching to get up here? This is Todd Scripseth. I have 5 former players that are head coaches at colleges. This is one of them. He's at Monmouth, University of Monmouth, Illinois. Todd and I went round and round. He and Carl played together. And I got to think of what I could tell about you. Is your dad here, Terry? Okay. Anyway, I got Todd this job where he got the, Kenny, are you going to go home or are you going to stick around? Okay. Because Kenny Bowman is one of my heroes. Kenny played on 3 state tournament teams. Kenny was married when he was a junior, and he and his mom thought, well, that's the end of my career. I thought, that's ridiculous. So we had a married kid played with us. And Kenny's had a lung replaced, both of them. Yep. Anyway, Todd Scripseth, I got a job, a cushy job driving the mail truck from one place to another to another. I go by his house one noon, and I'll be damned if the school's truck isn't parked there, and Todd is asleep in it. I said, wake your ass up and get started, or you're not going to have this job in an hour. His dad ran a paint store. And so we decided to have Todd help me paint my house here. And it was, what's that kind of stuff? Stuff, not paint, but what's the other? Stain. And Terry says, Bill, Todd's the worst painter you ever seen in your life. So we went and sat on the bank while he's painting on my house, and he's got stain that started here and ran all the way down his pants and everything. And Terry and I are just laughing our butts off. And you said, I think this will be pretty good. Todd Smith.
All right, first off, I coach at Monmouth College, not Monmouth University. I wouldn't allow my bench to act like they do at the end if you're familiar with how Monmouth University, all the shenanigans that they have. And I'm sure that's part of Coach Fleming's influence. You know, there's so many things that we can talk about as former players here at Maquoketa. One of my first interactions with Coach were the Saturday morning open gyms. And, you know, as a little kid growing up in Maquoketa, you look forward to it all week. And I remember one time I was walking away and he yelled, "Ben trot, Ben trot." And so finally I turned around and I say, "Coach, my name's Scripseth." And his response was, "If you're any goddamn good, then I'll learn your name." I think I was like in 4th grade at the time, so I kind of got a taste of what I was going to be in for. But, you know, the university, Coach Davidson was talking about the University of Dubuque camp, and man, did we look forward to going to that camp. It was a lot of work. It was tough. I think we went for like 2 weeks in a row. He said we'd always play afterwards with the college guys, you know, but amazingly we always had enough energy to still sprint to the van because nobody wanted to sit up front with Coach on the way home because you knew it would be the longest half hour of your life. You know, basketball camp at Maquoketa, you know, that was just a week you always look forward to, not only as a camper, but also as a counselor or a coach. I think one year as a coach, I ended up owing money at the end because of the camp store accounts. It was the first. I still can't believe, as a coach now, how you allowed 3rd and 4th grade kids to charge things. Parents would show up and have a $100 bill at the camp store. They were buying shoes and socks and shirts. Who knows what he was selling. A couple other things. Saturday, the weekend film sessions at Coach's house. I think those were even on Sunday mornings a lot of times. Saturday mornings, whenever. But those were always, you were always nervous. You wanted to make sure that you played well, and even if you did play well, you knew that you were going to get a butt chewing because Coach always had high expectations, and anytime you started to meet those expectations, you knew they were going to be raised. But that's part of why Maquoketa basketball was as successful as it was. The Christmas gift exchange, that was always a good time. There were some unique presents that were handed out. And it was, you know, a lot of them we probably can't talk about here, but they were. It was always a lot of fun. The friendships that were developed amongst the boys basketball team were remarkable because you had to have some grit to get through Coach's program. You know, I can think back to some of the guys that we started off with as, you know, 5th, 6th, 7th graders that were very good athletes that just they didn't make it. They couldn't handle Coach, and they decided to go in a different direction. And so I think it built a camaraderie amongst the players that was extremely special. As a college coach, one of the things that I notice a lot is kids' inability to handle adversity today. And if you made it through Coach's program, you definitely could handle adversity. There's no question about it. And I thank you for you know, building that skill set in me because it's definitely made me a stronger person.
What were you going to name the son?
I got 2 boys. I have Jake, who's 8, and Tyler, who's 6. And you know, with the last name Scripset, no one can ever pronounce it. I figured I might as well take advantage of it, and I wanted to name my 2nd son Baron Von Scripset. You know, but my coach got a kick out of that when he came down to speak at my camp. We were just about ready to have our 2nd son, but my wife, she didn't think that was such a good idea, so it's Tyler now. So, but the one thing that Coach instilled in our team is the belief that we can absolutely beat anybody. You know, whenever we took the court, I don't care if it was in the summer and we had the opportunity to play against the bigger schools, we knew that we were going to be in the game and that we were going to have an opportunity to win. To be quite honest with you, we didn't think anybody outside the city limits of Maquoketa played basketball the right way. They didn't play it our way. And Coach built a fantastic program here, one that I feel very special about being part of. Thank you.
This guy is Kenny Bowman. I wish his mom was still alive. If she could verify the meeting I'm going to tell you about. Once I found out that he and Pam were expected, I know everybody thought that's the end of Kenny's career. I went over to their house and talked to him and his mother and said, I want Kenny to keep playing. I don't know if there's a rule against it or anything, but I want him to play. Is that between your junior and senior year? And we'd already been in state tournament 2 times. And he could jump like crazy. You haven't known 6'1", and God, could he jump? Anyway, 5'11". Anyway, where was I going with this? Oh, we practiced in the morning, we practiced in the afternoon, and I told Kenny, Hey, I don't care what we do to those other guys. If you give me 45 to 60 minutes a day, you just pick when you want it to be, and we'll work around it. And thank God he did. Kenny, well,
I'm not a speaker by any means. When Mrs. McAfee talked, I was on that team. When the gym was packed, they played that song at the end of the game. You know, you still remember that every day. There's things that Coach Fleming taught us that, you know, nobody else could ever do. Respect, whether it be the flag, the prayers before and after each game. Those are what helped me through what I went through 4 years ago. I wore what he is wearing now. I had the same disease. For him to be here, it shows how tough he is. It's a very, very difficult thing. I'm very proud to be here. Physically also. One thing I would like to do, I don't know how many more people want to speak, but we did one thing after each game that I do every day. And that's saying our Father. If we could all stand, I would rather if everyone stood and held hands and could do that. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Power, glory, the only funny memory that I should say only one of them. We were, I can't remember if we played Monticello or if we played Manchester. We always went to a restaurant. Was it in Manchester where they went down in the basement? Had to have been Manchester then. We were walking in the front door, and I think we had actually gotten beat that night up there. And they had no idea we were there. And Coach Fleming was close to the door, but in a little farther, and we were just coming in. One of the fans from the other town was standing there talking, and they said, "Did you see that coach from Maquoketa?" And if you remember those years, hair was kind of a big thing. And he goes, "He's got himself one of them." And I remember that, and that, he don't have that anymore.
This is my youngest son, Dan. When he and Adam Hefner were at my house yesterday, Adam Hefner, Rocky the Walk. Rocky, why don't you stand up? Where are you? Okay. I was surrounded by the first All-Stater. We had first All-American, second All-American, third All-American, Adam Hefner, and they all played pro basketball. When he was a senior in college, he played for the national title game. He appeared in Sports Illustrated, Faces in the Crowd. When Adam Hefner was a junior, we were the national champions in 2007. We have a picture of our national championship team, Rocky, me, and Hefner. 3 Maquoketa guys to be on a national basketball championship team are about 1 in 10 billion. The other story I wanted to share with you, I've had a Navy SEAL, a guy who's been an undercover agent for the FBI. And I think the 2 of them were in San Diego speaking, and there was like 15 or 20 people in there. And one of those guys, I think, is in attendance here yet. And they went around the room and they asked where they all were from. You can imagine when 2 of them say, Maquoketa Island. The SEAL said, if you'd known my basketball coach, you would have known why I was well prepared for this. This is my youngest son, Dan. He's a pilot out of Florida now. And his story is amazing. Got to play for Rocky. 6'1", could hit his head on the rim. Think about that for a while. Dan.
A lot of these memories shared today, pretty much all of them are basketball related. And I've got days and days worth of memories basketball-wise that I can share. But I have a little bit different perspective. On the basketball court, practice, a lot of times our personalities would mix as well as oil and water would. I had the basketball thrown in my head and get kicked out of practice. It would follow us home, and it would continue there. But eventually, it would work out. And that was the basketball side of it, just a glimpse. The other side was, I can't explain how lucky I am that when I was about 5 years old, my mom met Dad. They started playing tennis together, and I went from there. And I remember being 5 years old and being a very protective little 5-year-old son, with a single mother, and telling him to get away, like any little boy would to his mother. But their relationship developed, and therefore our relationship developed. And I developed into a basketball player as well as a young man. This is this one right here. As a father, it's different than just a coach. He instilled in me discipline, hard work, dedication. And today, now that I have kids of my own, I just hope that I can follow in his footsteps and instill some of those same characteristics. I love you, Dad. Thank you.
Danny and Curtis Clark and the other 2 characters, Doug Nickram and Donnie Carson. This thing kind of took on a life of its own. And I'm not big on social media. I don't know anything about Facebook. I thought it was a mirror that you looked at. But yes, I appreciate everything they've said. The memories just come back. Not sure. You know what? Tears speak louder than anything else. And when you see grown men, still moved to tears. You know that we were on the right path.
I just want to thank you.
I am Gay Storley. Bill was my brother-in-law for about 11 years. I just want to thank him from the bottom of my heart for being a dad to Danny and giving him a life and a chance of a lifetime. Thank you, everyone.
I just want to thank everyone for coming and being a part of this, because when Curtis and I first started talking about it, we weren't sure exactly how it was going to turn out, how many people would come, but we knew the excitement in this man when he found out that this was planned, and it means the world to him, and it means the world to me. And I appreciate all of you being here and making the effort. Thank you very much, guys.
I just wanted to say something about our managers. We had some of the great managers of all time. Many of these guys that later played started out being managers. Just stand up if you're ever a manager or a stat keeper in this program. Just stand up. I gotta thank you, Bill. About a week ago, Michael Leeds, that every time I look at him, I burst into tears. I helped Michael get a job out at Flapjacks that he has to this day. He's become an ambassador of our game. And if you wonder why he didn't make it as a basketball player, this was his 7th grade coach. And in this letter, Leedsy says, "Thank you so much, Coach. You helped me in so many ways. I just want you to know what you meant to me. You introduced me to 3 of the greatest men in my life. Jack Marlowe, Jeff Tampier, and Dennis Street." Stand up, Michael. You're right there, man. When I first came to Maquoketa, my 8th grade math class was Rocky Lamar. You can do anything you want